The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display flickered to life. Ambassador Zexthor of the Corinthian Empire watched with mounting dread as the footage played. Another colony world. Another massacre. The perpetrators were the same as always. The Vorax Syndicate. Pirates who had terrorized the Outer Rim for decades with impunity. This cannot continue, Councillor Miravan spoke, her tentacles writhing in agitation. 17 worlds in 6 months. The Council's peacekeeping forces are insufficient. Zexthor knew she was right. The Council had always been reactive, diplomatic, cautious. The Vorax exploited that weakness perfectly. But there was one name that kept surfacing in his intelligence reports. One name that made even the most hardened Vorax captains flee their raids mid-operation. The Terrans. More specifically, 2 Terrans, Danny Reeves and Noah Chen. It had been 15 years since Zexthor first encountered humans. Back then, they were newly arrived in galactic society, their little blue world having just achieved faster-than-light travel. He remembered the young exploration team that had stumbled upon his crashed diplomatic vessel on an uncharted moon. Danny had been a mechanic, barely 20 standard years old, with bright eyes and an infectious smile. Noah had been the team's xenobiologist, cautious but kind. They had every reason to leave him there. The Corinthian Empire had no treaties with Earth, no agreements, no leverage. Yet Danny had spent 3 days jury-rigging his ship's exotic propulsion system with human technology that shouldn't have been compatible. Noah had shared their limited medical supplies, treating Zexthor's injuries despite knowing nothing about Corinthian physiology. "Why help me?" Zexthor had asked through the translation device. Danny had simply shrugged, grease-stained hands never stopping their work. "Because you need help." "Isn't that enough?" Such a human answer. Such a dangerous answer. Zexthor had returned to his empire and filed his report, noting the curious nature of these newcomers. Then he'd watched from afar as humanity began to spread through the galaxy. They were friendly, eager to trade, quick to offer assistance. The Council welcomed them as they welcomed all species, with cautious optimism and mountains of bureaucracy. Then the Vorax made their mistake. 3 years ago, they had raided the human colony of New Adelaide. It was a farming world, lightly defended, full of families. The Vorax killed 2,000 civilians before help could arrive. The Galactic Council offered the standard condolences, launched the standard investigation, and imposed the standard sanctions that the Vorax promptly ignored. The humans had other ideas. Danny and Noah resurfaced, no longer naive explorers, but something the galaxy had never quite seen before. Danny had become a shipwright, designing vessels that married human ingenuity with alien technology in ways that made engineers weep. Noah had become a strategist, his understanding of alien psychology turned toward darker purposes. Together, they formed what humans called a privateer fleet, legal by human law, operating in the gray zones of galactic jurisdiction. Their mission was simple: find the Vorax and the Vorax. "We should hire them," Zexthor said suddenly, breaking the Council's debate. The chamber erupted in protests. "Hire mercenaries, humans?" Councillor Dravik's translator screeched. "They're barely civilized. Their methods are brutal." "Their methods are effective," Zexthor countered. "Tell me, Councillor, when was the last time you heard of a Vorax raid in the Terran protection zone?" Silence answered him. Everyone knew. In the sectors where Danny and Noah operated, Vorax activity had dropped to 0. "Not reduced, 0. They're too dangerous," Miravan insisted. "The reports from their engagements are disturbing. When the Terran guns fire, their enemies simply stop responding. No distress calls, no survivors, no evidence. Perhaps that's precisely what we need," Zexthor said quietly. The vote was close, but desperation won. The Council authorized him to make contact. He found them at a way station near the Helios cluster, their ship a sleek predator of human and alien design that Danny had named Payback. When Zexthor's shuttle docked, Danny greeted him with that same smile, though her eyes carried weight they hadn't before. Noah stood beside her, his expression unreadable. "Ambassador Zexthor," Danny said warmly. "Been a long time." "Indeed. I have come to—" "We know why you're here," Noah interrupted softly. "The Council wants us to handle the Vorax problem." Zexthor's dorsal fins flattened in surprise. "How did you—" "Because it's what we do," Danny said. "You hit a wall with diplomacy, so you call in the specialists. It's smart. The Council is concerned about your methods, Zexthor admitted. The silence that follows your engagements. They fear what it means. Danny and Noah exchanged a glance. Some wordless communication passed between them, the kind that only old friends shared. We'll take the contract, Noah said finally. Same terms as always. We work alone, no council oversight, and we do it our way. What is your way? Zexthor had to ask. What happens when your weapons fire? Why does everything go silent? Danny's smile faded. You helped us once, Ambassador, so I'll tell you a secret about humans. We're really good at learning. We learned your technology, your tactics, your cultures, but we also learned your weaknesses. Noah continued. The Voraks rely on subspace communication, quantum-entangled command networks. When we fire our guns, we're not just firing projectiles. We're firing targeted EMPs, quantum scramblers, and psychological warfare programs that Danny designed specifically for each species' neural patterns. Their ships don't explode dramatically, Danny added. Their systems just stop. Life support, weapons, communications, all of it. The silence you hear? That's the sound of their entire operational infrastructure dying simultaneously. And the crews? Zexthor asked, though he feared the answer. Alive, Noah said firmly. Trapped in dead ships waiting for rescue that usually arrives within hours. We're not monsters, Ambassador. We're just really, really good at making people stop fighting. Zexthor felt something unknot in his chest. You spare them. We neutralize them, Danny corrected. The terror of the silence, of being completely helpless, that spreads faster than any weapon. The Voraks fear us now not because we kill them, but because we can end their entire operation without firing a single lethal shot. That's why they run. That's why our zones are clean. Humans, Zexthor breathed, understanding finally dawning. You turned warfare into mercy wrapped in terror. We learned that from you, Danny said softly. 15 years ago, you could have left us stranded on that moon. Instead, you taught us patience, showed us kindness. We've been paying that forward ever since, Ambassador, one silent victory at a time. Noah pulled up a tactical display. Now about those Vorak strongholds. As they planned the operation, Zexthor watched these two humans, these friends he'd once helped, and marveled. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, mistaking their compassion for weakness. But Danny and Noah understood something profound. The most devastating weapon wasn't the one that destroyed, but the one that made destruction unnecessary. 3 months later, the Vorak Syndicate surrendered. Not because they were beaten, but because they couldn't bear another moment of that terrible silence. And across the galaxy, whenever pirates gathered, they told a new story. They spoke in hushed tones about the Terrans, about the guns that didn't kill but somehow ended everything anyway. They learned what Zexthor had known all along. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The end.